right around this time 5 years ago. So, right at the start of the pandemic, being trapped in my house, being away from the school, I didn't really have anything much to do. I started watching this streamer on Twitch named Jcog, who was a Paper Mario speedrunner. And then occasionally he would do some casual playthroughs, and he decided to play this game, Bug Fables, which was heavily inspired by Paper Mario. And I eventually said, you know what? I'm gonna play it, and I got it in May of 2020, and I absolutely fell in love with it, just from the characters to the writing and the way that they utilize the combat in this game. The world design in general, I found it so cool. Where it took place, everything about the game just really spoke to me.
This is why you should play Bug Fables, the Everlasting Sapling. Why, hello, and welcome to another episode of Why You Should Play. We are back for our first mainline traditional, however you want to refer to it. We, of course, had the 2024 in review episode, which I was over the moon with. The response to it has been great. There's people already talking about participating next year, so I'm already getting excited for that. But my guest today has been a long time anticipated return guest. He was, in fact, the first guest on this show. He was, for many reasons, one of the first people that I outreached to about joining me as a guest on the show. And to give the quick rundown of him, he is a self-ascribed weeb. It is very rare that you'll ever get me to say that word out loud, but I make exceptions for exceptional people. So he is the co-host of the Games Over Plastic podcast with mutual buds and friends of the show, Hodge and Midnight. All three of those guys do a great job producing content on a regular cadence that I am envious of. Their production value is extremely high, which I am also envious of, and they do a consistently great job. So go check them out. He is also recently added as the co-host of the wonderful Backlog Brain Rot podcast with all around wonderful chaps Parrot and Straw Hat. They also do a wide variety of primarily gaming related content, if not entirely gaming, at a regular cadence, which I am also envious of. So for sure, go check them out as well. Personally, he is what many people know as an awe-inspiring chef and baker. He is also a distance runner, which he does regularly to be able to eat a whole numerous helpings of his amazing culinary concoctions. He is also a teacher, a basketball coach. Is that right? You're a coach, right?
Yeah,
Basketball,
basketball, soccer, and track.
basketball, soccer. Yeah, I mean, track coach. Yeah, that makes sense too. So, and lastly, and most importantly, he is a friend, not just of this show, but I am proud to call him a true friend of mine and someone who I give the highest honor to. His daily affirmations, his words of encouragement. I know I speak for so many of us when I say that even from a distance, his presence improves so many of our lives on a day to day basis. I am extremely honored and blessed to welcome the return of the wonderful Sean Mason. Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Wow, Bill, that was quite the intro for me. You give me much too much praise there. I
Ah,
am just trying to spread the joy and happiness every single day. Yeah, I do have a lot going on my plate. I love to be active, just constantly doing things. I don't like to sit in boredom
yes,
and when I'm not doing something, I'm kind of like, oh, I need to be doing something.
yes,
I need to
yes.
be constantly doing something.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. You do such a good job. Your end of the year videos that you've done the last 2 years have been so much fun to participate in, and just to see everyone else's game choices is awesome. Like, I love it because I discovered some games that I had no idea about from watching some of your videos. From watching last year's video and, well, 2024 and 2023's video, I discovered so many games. I'm proud to be a part of it, and I'm happy to see how much success you've gotten from the view count, which is phenomenal.
Oh, thank you very much. I try to do content that's authentic, right? I know a lot of people they want to do things that they try to, and I understand it. They want to chase trends or they want to get a certain video out at a specific time, and I've never been like that. I want to do things that kind of come to me organically and that I have a genuine passion for. And as far as the end of the year video, yeah, I really enjoy doing it because I think it really is a culmination of what I'm going for with this show and this podcast. It's people who really do bite-sized sort of elevator pitches for games that, like, not even you knew about them, and you play a huge variety of games. So and I will actually participate in my end of the year video this year. I know I said I was going to do it last year, but I am going to submit a game. So help me God, I am actually going to submit a game, this 2025 video, because I am trying to explore and discover more indie games this year. Actually, dare I say, social media has actually been valuable for that. Just seeing all these little snippets of indie games that people are developing and just adding them to my wish list on Steam or wherever has been valuable. And yeah, your comment about always needing to do things, I was actually thinking about this earlier, is that there's this old saying that idle hands do the devil's work, and I truly believe that idle minds do that as well. So I'm the same way. I always want to be doing something, even if it's no matter how large or small it is. So, as I mentioned, you were the first guest on this show, and I apologize. It has been far too long. This is just your second appearance on this show. I still can't believe it's been so long. And in fact, the game we're going to be talking about today was one of the games. If you remember, it was at least these two, Axiom Verge and this one, Bug Fables, which I know you hold in high regard. I believe it's in like your top 10 games of all time, if
Yes,
I recall.
Bug Fables is a top 10 game of all time for me. It
Awesome.
is.
Awesome.
This is like, I'm pretty sure this is the first game I brought up to you when you came to me about this podcast.
I think so. It was one of the. I can go back and look at our chats, but it was. I'm not sure in which specific order, but it was this and Axiom Verge 1 and 2 for sure. So
Yeah.
I'm glad. I once in a while, even in my advanced age, I remember things once in a while. So I remembered Bug Fables, and it was always there, and not many people that I know have played this game. So I'm hoping that this will get a signal boost. And it's so funny, as it so happens, that they announced the physical version of this game like 3 days ago on sale, and I'm just like, we make, I joke, half jokingly, half seriously, say we make things happen on this podcast. So yeah, I'll probably be looking to pick up the physical version of this game. But before we get into Bug Fables, as is tradition, what are you currently playing and enjoying?
So right now, I'm playing some weeb stuff, playing some very much
Mm,
some weeb stuff.
mm,
Trails Through Daybreak 2. Oh,
mm.
the 12th game in the series of these amazing JRPGs, and I am absolutely loving it. I've put about 25 hours into it, and it has delivered beyond my expectations. There's a lot of homages to the past games in the series. This is not a game you can just jump into if you've never played them. um it's so much fun to just pick up where the Trails Through Daybreak 1 left off. It's a couple months later, and you're picking up with the same crew, and it introduces two characters. I'm not going to spoil who they are. Two characters from previous games come back, and that was a huge, like, I didn't see it coming at all, because there was really no link to the characters that you play as in Trails Through Daybreak. There, it's like a new kind of like it's like a new era of Trails games. Like, it takes place in the Calvard Republic, which you've never explored before. So it's like a whole different side of the world of Zamiria. Um, so when they introduced these two characters into the Calvard Republic, I was like, "Oh my gosh, wow, they're back!" And I really enjoyed them from some of the previous games. So I was excited to see them return. There's a lot of quality of life enhancements they made compared to Trails Through Daybreak 1. For example, the fishing in this game is awesome. Like, I'm not a big fishing guy in
Mm.
video games, but the fishing in this game is really cool, really good. They explore some new areas of the Calvard Republic that we haven't gone to before. And overall, I'm really enjoying it. I am probably going off trophy data. I'm like about 3/4 of the way through the game, but I do everything in these games, in these Trails games. I talk to every single NPC in the towns. What I really like about what Neon Falcom does with these games is like every NPC character is named. Like it's not like unnamed character or like store worker or store clerk or um like they all have individual names. They all have unique dialogue. There's no copy and paste characters, which it makes it stand out. And that's why Trails has quickly become one of my favorite video game franchises of all time.
That is awesome. I was struck by a few things that you mentioned there. Is it really? It's for some reason I thought. Do you keep up with the Japanese releases of the series as well?
I do not. I
Okay, because I don't know. There's so many. I mean, it's almost a meme at this point. But there's so many games in that series. I thought this was maybe like the 14th game, but 12th, I guess,
It's
sounds
the
pretty
12th.
right.
Yeah, 12th in the US releases.
Releases. Okay.
I'm pretty sure Japan is only one game ahead of us now. But I think the second one well like the second like the 14th game of the series is scheduled to come out sometime this year in Japan.
Okay. Then there's of course the remake of the original
Yep.
Trails in the Sky FC, and to be honest with you, I dipped my toe into the series a little bit with the original Trails in the Sky, but this sometime this year the remake of the first game is supposed to happen, and it has sort of made me consider strongly eventually doing a Trails episode. We will see.
Ooh.
I mean, it would obviously be a pretty epic episode. I will say I have more than two guests in mind for that. Of course, you would be one. I have at least two others, probably three if I had my preference. But yeah, we will see. But obviously, I feel like I would need to play at least like three of the games. I would say to have some frame of reference beyond just like the one game. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe sometime around the remake or shortly after. But is there anything else that you're playing?
It's funny. I actually played another Neon Falcom game. I played Ease X. It came out last year in October. Really fun. I'm not as big of a fan of the Ys games as Trails games. I think the Trails games are higher production. They're more drawn out in like their stories and characters. But I do like the Ys games, and the combat is more real time. It's more like action combat, more like an action RPG. But it was really good. It was fun, and I'm playing Pikmin 2. I started Pikmin 2. That is for Backlog Brain Rot, that
Of
podcast.
course.
Me and Straw Hat are embarking on our Pikmin adventure for our co-host Parrot. It's some of his favorite games, so we have both decided to play Pikmin for him.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. Yeah, I was gonna say that will definitely please Parrot. I would hope there like eventually will be like a big um Pikmin focused special episode.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we have one in the works. We have one in the works.
Awesome. I think I own one and two. I think I own the one and two. They released one and two as the remastered pack, right? I believe on Switch.
Yes, yeah, on
Yeah.
Switch. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I own both of those, and yeah, Pikmin 4 seemed like it was pretty well received for the most part. It was one of the people's one of their favorites in the series. I think I've returned to form, but no, that's awesome. You speaking of pleasing other people with what we were playing, of course I'm sure I believe last month, I don't know, time is a flat circle nowadays, but I played Kingdom Hearts 1
Oof.
into
Oh,
excuse me, Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix and Kingdom Hearts, is it 2.5 Final Mix? I don't know. The
it's still considered two final mix, but
Okay.
2.5 is like the collection of the games.
Okay, collection of the game. Okay, so Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix, Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. I enjoyed them quite a bit. I It's funny when you play older games and like the original older game and then the sequel back to back, it kind of tells a story. And playing Kingdom Hearts 2, you can kind of see what their response was from Kingdom Hearts 1 because I feel like Kingdom Hearts 1 had a little bit more inspired level design, but it was also a little bit more obtuse in some of the levels in Kingdom Hearts 1. It wasn't quite clear where you were supposed to go from
Hmm.
beat to beat within the
Yeah,
level. Kingdom Hearts 2, obviously, the production value was a little bit better, the quality of life was a little bit better, but the level design was a little bit less inspired, which was fine because coming off of Kingdom Hearts 1 and being a little bit frustrated of where to go, but not only that, the combat was greatly strong word. It was pretty substantially improved upon from 1. And yeah, it was just really, really good. So Kingdom Hearts 2, definitely had some memorable moments, and I'm currently playing Birth by Sleep.
Great game.
I'm at the very final boss of Terra's campaign. He is the more big brawling bruiser combat, right? That's Terra.
Yep. Yep, that's
Yeah.
Terra.
Yeah, so I'm at the very end. I've heard that final boss fight is the most difficult one of the three, but finding out that there's three distinct campaigns within the game and they're all the different combat styles is very appealing. Because when I saw like another 30-hour whatever total playthrough, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. But knowing that it's broken up into thirds like that is cool. So yeah, I'm eventually going to be completing that. I'm not sure when. I'll probably hopefully by the end of now this month. By the end of this month, I should be able to definitely finish it, and then I'm definitely going to play Kingdom Hearts 3 sometime this year. Probably I don't know, maybe in the summer or something. So yeah, I'm excited to get to that. I joke with people that Nomura is just waiting on me to finish Kingdom Hearts 3 before he re-reveals 4. So I'm trying my best, everyone. I promise. But no, yeah, I've been enjoying the games more than I expected to. The combat system is really fun. Being able to freely switch in and out your abilities and your magic and melee abilities and such has been very fun. And there's obviously a lot of moments that I recognize from like memes and gifs and such. So it's been very fun. The other game that I recently played is Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, with Platinum Games coming back in the news with working on Ninja Gaiden 4. I was like, okay, let me go back because I had played Vanquish, and of course I did the episode with the awesome Ben Smith, and I really enjoyed Vanquish. So I was like, oh, let me get Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. I know it's really well loved, and I liked the game a lot. There was a couple of boss fights near the ends that I felt like were enough of a departure from the core moment to moment sort of main combat loop that I didn't like them as much, and it felt like they were different, but they were also not very fun to me. I found them kind of annoying, if I'm honest. And there were previous boss fights earlier in the game that I thought were a lot more fun. So, of the Platinum games that I've played overall, in terms of pure fun gameplay, Vanquish is probably my number one right now. There's still a few more that I need to get to, or probably I think there's like one or two that I've played before that I need to replay, but that was also good. And then I actually played a demo last night called Twisted Tower, and it's funny that I played this. I just thought of this now, Sean. I know I was one who kept pestering you to play Bioshock, and you finally
Yep.
played it really. And this game is really it has Bioshock vibes and Bioshock stamp all over it. It's a first person game. You're a guy who gets dropped off in front of a really weird facility, I'll say. There's been some craziness that's gone down. You have to explore it. You get guns. I only played the demo, but you do get a cool I'll say like a cool traversal ability that I didn't expect, and it does some cool things with that ability and the level design. So I would say check that out. I think it's only on Steam right now.
Okay.
So yeah, check out Twisted Tower if you're at all into Bioshock or want that sort of fix. So another, as is tradition with this show, is when people come on to talk about a game that they really love, that really personally resonates with them on a deep level beyond just like I really enjoyed playing that game. I always want to hear people's personal connection to the game, their story, their introduction, if you will. So, Sean, what was your story with Bug Fables? Tell me how you discovered the magic.
Okay, so Bug Fables, it's very interesting how I discovered Bug Fables. It was actually right around, I would say, right around this time 5 years ago. So, right at the start of the pandemic is when I found Bug Fables. Me being trapped in my house, being away from the school, I didn't really have anything much to do. I started watching this streamer on Twitch named JCog, who was a Paper Mario speedrunner. And he would do these Paper Mario speedruns all the time, and I would watch him almost every single night. And then occasionally he would do some casual playthroughs, and he decided to play this game Bug Fables, which was heavily inspired by Paper Mario, and I didn't want to watch him play it. So anytime he would go on it, I'd be like, "All right, I gotta, hop off now. I'm like not gonna watch him play it because I want to experience it myself." And I eventually said, "You know what? I'm gonna play it," and I got it in May of 2020, and I absolutely fell in love with it. The way that Jcog spoke about it made me so interested in it. And he basically said it was the essentially the best Paper Mario game since the thousand Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. So I was like, all right, this has got me like my hooks in me. So I went in and I instantly fell in love with it, just from the characters to the writing. I found the writing to be high quality, like top notch, like right there with the Paper Mario games, which have a reputation of having some of the best writing in video games. So that really just got its hooks in me. And when I played it, I instantly fell in love. And from like I love turn-based combat, and the way that they utilize the combat in this game really just spoke to me. It was something about it just I did it felt so satisfying to rack up hits and rack up like just killing enemies. Just the world design in general, I found it so cool where it took place. Everything about the game just really spoke to me.
That's awesome. My takeaways from the game echoes a lot of what you just mentioned and goes right along with what we're going to be discussing on this episode. So, yes, as Sean mentioned, the game is called Bug Fables: The Everlasting Sapling. It was released on PC on November 21st,
Mm.
2019. It was then released on consoles on May 28th, 2020. As it so happens, just a few days ago, they announced a. I'm not. I don't think it was the. I don't think it's the first physical release, but I think it's. Is it the first or is it a re-release?
It's a re-release.
Re-release. Okay,
I have two copies of the physical edition. I bought a regular copy for PS4, and I have the collector's edition for Switch. That came with
awesome.
a bunch of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. So a few days ago, as it so happens, as I joke, we make things happen here on this show, on this podcast. They announced a re-release, a reprint of the physical version of the game. So we thank them for their not sponsorship of our show. It's good brand synergy there. But seriously, yes, it's a relatively new game. I think one of the more recent releases that we've had. But no, it's cool to see a really kind of a modern classic already in many people's eyes. So, Sean, the first thing that I want to dive into with this game, and you mentioned it really with as part of your discovery of the game, is it is inescapable. And I believe the developers have been very open and honest and transparent about this, is that this is very much a Paper Mario homage game. And so when someone says that, for someone maybe who isn't familiar, and maybe for people as well, for people who are familiar with Paper Mario, what does that mean when they say this game is a Paper Mario homage?
Okay, so when they say it's a Paper Mario homage, we can start with just obviously it's the art style of the game. Everything is basically paper designed. Everything looks like paper. You're running around a world it's a 3D world, but it's built of paper, and it's a giant RPG, obviously, with characters you can talk to. There's side quests. The side quests aren't like some of them are really meaningful. Some of them, traditional, regular, RPG side quests. Go get this, get me this. There's a bunch of items. Paper Mario had a badge system, very similar. This is a medal system, and it very similar. It can hey, you will increase this stat, or you can do this move, or they're power ups basically, and you can use them. And instead of in Paper Mario, they have flower points. In this game, they have TP, which is like how you use certain special moves. The combat is turn based, but it's not traditional turn based combat. Whereas you have a block and a super block, which was introduced in Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, which is like a timing based block. The combat is like I said, it's turn based, but it's timing based turn based combat. So you can like press a button when you're going to attack, and if you press the button correctly, you will deal more damage. There are certain special moves. They'll tell you to do something with your like certain buttons, and you do the button sequence, and you can do the moves. Um, the world is usually broken up into 7 chapters, very similar to this. You usually have you're looking for some type of artifact in Paper Mario. In each chapter, you kind of get a little bit closer to finding it, or you find a fragment or a piece of it. This does that. This takes that formula to a T and does that. There's a wide variety of locations in Paper Mario games. You could go from a wintry tundra to a tropical forest. Very similar here in Bug Fables. You can go from basically a Sahara desert to like an a tropical island, or an Amazon forest type of level. It really takes the Paper Mario formula and kind of emulates it and does it really really well.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a very good breakdown, especially about the combat, since that's really at the core of the game and the gameplay. And for those who have a frame of reference around Paper Mario, are there any distinct differences that you would maybe point out to experienced Paper Mario players to say, hey, maybe this is how this game strays somewhat from the Paper Mario series?
Yes. First of all, in Paper Mario, well, the traditional, more turn-based Paper Mario games, like the first three Paper Mario games, you get different partners throughout the story. Like usually there's like six or seven partners in those Paper Mario games. In this game, you have a party of three, and you get it very early on, and that is your party. One upgrade about that though is you get much more backstory about the characters. You feel like the party is together and they're on a journey together and they're all heavily invested. Whereas in the even in if we go back to the original Paper Mario, after the dedicated chapter to that partner, the partner never spoke again. It's kind of weird to think about. I didn't notice it as a kid, but then it's one of those things. Once you understand it, you're like, oh my gosh, the partners do never speak in Paper Mario. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, that improves a little bit, but again, it's more of Mario's on a journey, and these partners just happen to accompany him. Whereas in Bug Fables, it's like a more traditional JRPG where your party is there for the journey. They're all three of them are heavily invested. I would also say the side quests are much more memorable in Bug Fables than in the more traditional Paper Mario games. Now, of course, in those Paper Mario games, you do have some really interesting, really intriguing side quests where you can learn a little bit more about the world and the lore. But in this game, it's much more integral to. I think you get a lot more out of it when you do the side quests because you learn a lot more about the characters. Some of them, I would almost say, it's like this is like stuff you should not miss if you really enjoy the characters because you learn so much about the backstory of Kabu, V, and Leaf, and just the overall world of what's going on and um, who are the enemies, why are they doing what they're doing, what's the dynamic between different bugs in the world. um, that is what kind of makes it stand out. I think the combat is a little bit more advanced in this game too, compared to earlier Paper Mario games. They introduced this thing called the turn relay system in Bug Fables, which is so let's say you have a partner that you don't want to attack that turn. Instead of skipping like his turn, you can basically give your turn to attack to one of the other party members, and that is super super handy when fighting certain enemies because certain enemies
Yeah.
are weak to certain attacks or better to utilize one party member compared to the other. Specifically V, because V can be a very, very powerful party member.
Yeah, and to add a little nugget to that, there some enemies are ground based and some are airborne. So you can switch to like V does the boomerang, which is like the airborne attack, whereas Kabu does his horn digging under the ground, so he can only hit airborne enemies. And oh yeah, we'll go into the combat a little bit more, but yeah, I abused the heck out of that relay system for sure. I was freely swapping in and out turns and handing over turns to teammates, and so based on the enemies. So yeah, it's cool to hear about how something that is so inspired by Paper Mario adds these little wrinkles that actually improves upon and expands upon the combat. So that tells me that the developers who are I apologize, I forgot to mention them earlier. The developer is called Moonsprout Games. They actually put more thought into it than just like, oh, we're going to copy Paper Mario. So I appreciated that, and I appreciated you going into all the similarities and differences because Sean, I'm sure you know, and everyone else listening, maybe many of you do know, but everyone who's listening, please brace yourselves when I say this. I have not played a Paper Mario game
Oh my
yet.
god.
So
Oh
I
my
know
god.
I own the Thousand Year Door. I own the Goat game. You have called it like the Goat game. I think it's one of your all time favorites. But playing this Bug Fables has me more excited to play Paper Mario. And broadly speaking, from your experience, is this game overall, is it about the length of an average Paper Mario game? Is it like shorter, longer? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say it's about the same length as the original Paper Mario. Thousand Year Door is probably I don't know. I've played Thousand Year Door so many times that I can like I don't have to like think about what I'm doing. I can just I know exactly where you need to go. I know exactly how to get everything.
Okay.
Thousand Year Door, I would say might be for a first time playthrough might be a little bit longer, but The side content in this game, I think, offers more hours in terms of total gameplay compared to Thousand Year Door. Thousand Year Door does have some really good side stuff, but it's mostly focused more on the combat. And if you're not really into the combat, or you're not particularly good at combat, the side stuff might not appeal to you as much.
Okay, that's fair. And yeah, well, the side content is an actual item I have on the agenda here, and
Yes.
but that's one thing that surprised me about this game. There is a lot of side quests. Like they
Yep.
just kept appearing and appearing to the point where I thought, like, oh my goodness, are they procedurally generated? Like, or are these all like handcrafted? And they're all handcrafted as far
Yep.
as I know.
They are.
I was like, man, they just kept appearing and appearing and appearing, and I did a lot of them. My playthrough, I want to say is so I did my side content in bursts. Like I would do like a chapter. I think there's 7 chapters in the game.
Yep.
The final chapter is basically the final boss fight, more or less. I would say that I did like a chapter, and then I tried to do about like half a dozen side quests, I would say, per chapter, roughly. And my playtime, I think, was just short of 35 hours. I think just between definitely at least 30, but not more than 35. Something like maybe like just under 35 hours, which I felt pretty good with. So that's broadly what to expect, regardless of how familiar you are with Paper Mario or not. So I wanted to address that because it's kind of like the elephant in the room when you're talking about this game. I watched some reviews of the game on YouTube after I completed the game. I try not to go, you know, I try to play these Wisp games solely off of the recommendation of people that I know and not like form an opinion based on a bunch of YouTube reviews that I watch. But I went back and after I completed the game, I went back and the words Paper Mario were uttered in reviews so often I could have done a drinking game and ended up in the hospital. So
Oh, yeah.
the next aspect of the game, which you did a great job of setting up talking about, is the combat in the game. And I'll give a little bit of like exposition dumps. You don't have to talk too much about the basics of it. So as Sean mentioned, the combat is turn based, but there are real time elements, specifically with timing of attacking and defending. And I know we do caveats at the end, but one sort of thing I want to emphasize with the combat is do not forget that you can block attacks. Like pretty much every single attack can be blocked. You may not be able, you probably won't be able to negate all of the damage, depending on like elemental weaknesses or the type of character that's being attacked, but you can block. Each character, as we mentioned, is there is Vi, who is a bumblebee, there is Kabu, who is a beetle, and then there is Leif, who is a moth, and they all have their primary attacks. So Vi has a boomerang. Um, Kabu has his beetle horn that he digs people underground, and Leif has a freezing mechanic. So they can throw. They throw ice at people, where they can freeze them, and different sorts of variations from that. And then also for, as Sean mentioned, there is a medal system, which basically works is when you level up in the game, each character levels up at the same time, at the same frequency. You can choose to either increase each party member's health, your overall magic points. What do they call that? I'm having
TP.
a
It's called
complete
TP.
TP.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically magic points.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there is the medal points. So your magic points and your medal points are all collective under the one party. So you have the magic points, and then you acquire medals throughout the game. But they're doing side quests, so you can purchase them at vendors, and so you can apply medals. Most medals apply to specific characters. You can apply them to specific characters. Some apply to the entire party. One thing that I thought was funny is I don't know if maybe this was in the later version of the game I had, or maybe it was at the very original release of the game. When I started the game, you get a hard mode medal
Yep.
immediately, so it
Yep.
like increases enemy damage, but also increases like the EXP and I think the item drops that you get as well. So I thought that was pretty funny. So if you're, they understood that it was going to be a large core of their player base was going to be people who are familiar with Paper Mario. So like, let's throw in the hard mode medal immediately. So um, that's basically a rundown of it. To as a sort of aside with the combat, each character's primary attack also serves to help solve puzzles and traversal challenges within the world and some of the dungeons and the areas that you're going to explore as well. So I thought that was a very good a very good sort of continuity. Again, there was more thought put into that as well. So, Sean, I'll let you go off with the combat. Whatever aspect of it you want to dive deeper to, kind of get into the weeds on, go right ahead.
I'll pick up right where you left off. Speaking of like how each of their mainline combat mechanics helps you in the overworld to solve puzzles, that is straight out of Paper Mario. Paper Mario does that all. That's a big aspect of. I should have mentioned that earlier. That's a big aspect of those Paper Mario games is puzzle solving in the overworld. And Bug Fables does a really good job. I think each chapter has unique puzzles you can solve, and they really make you think about what you need to do with each character. Some of them are timing, like you need to do stuff on a certain time, or you're gonna have to restart the whole puzzle, which I find like I love that stuff. That's like right up my alley. In terms of like more of the combat, I love all the different special moves the characters can use. Uh, Leaf with his frigid coffin move. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love that.
The one where you freeze an enemy. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I have used that one too. That was a
yep.
staple of mine.
Frigid coffin and bubble shield for
Yes,
your teammates.
yes,
That
yep,
is,
yep.
if you kind of break it down. I mean, like you said, Vi is like the heavy attacker. Like that is your damage doer. Um, Very much so. Kabu's more of
Yeah.
a tank and defense. Um, Oftentimes I would if you use the power up where you can give health to other teammates. Did you ever use that?
Yes, for Vi. In fact, I think I got an improved version of that, or
Hmm.
I think I got another medal or some type of item that improved that as well. So like my core healing medal did extra healing as well.
And then yeah, so Kabu's like the tank, the defense, Vi's the heavy damage, and Leaf is kind of like your mage if you want to
Hmm.
break them down into those like kind of topics. But yeah, I really like the idea of Leaf using like frozen moves as his spells basically because like they're bugs, they can't survive in freezing cold temperatures, which is pretty
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Um, it, it was really good. Did you, speaking of combat, did you try to take on the special secret? I'm trying to think what it was called again.
I stumbled upon one, I think at least one challenge side boss that I thought was a story thing. So I was like, oh, it because it kind of like
Hmm.
immediately launched into like a cinematic, like a cutscene.
Yep.
And I defeated one of those. And I think I defeated one or two others after that because I discovered the area where you turn in those like sort of big like boss side boss bounties.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, okay, we'll go down this rabbit hole later, like as one of our aspects of the game. But yeah, it's the combat is just another thing to where elements of this game are deeper, so much deeper than you initially think, and you can like go through the game and play it at like a surface level and be fully satisfied. But there's stuff beyond that I think is really rewarding. So, but go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was gonna ask if you had did you decide to take on the Cave of Trials where it's like the 50 waves of enemies?
No, I did not do that. I
Okay.
stumbled upon that. I think it's pretty like somewhat early on in the game. I think it's like halfway ish through the game, if I remember early on.
It's about like between a fourth and a half, which is it's funny because
Okay.
again this is taken straight out of Paper Mario. Paper Mario always introduces some type of like trial battle where you have to fight waves of enemies that get more difficult and more difficult. They always
Yeah.
introduce it at the beginning of the game, and then it's more you're not supposed to do it until like end game basically. But it's funny
Yeah.
again, something right out of Paper Mario. And Bug Fables, I have followed the speedrunning community of this game, and there's a special category of like, it's called the Cave of Trials. Beating the Cave of Trials, like right when it's, I think it's, I forget, like pre chapter 2, beating Cave of Trials, which is hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. It's funny you mentioned that. I think that's probably a broader Japanese stable too, because that's that whole trial by combat thing is in Kingdom Hearts as well, and
Oh, yep,
it's in Seven Remake and Rebirth and
yep.
so many other JRPGs. But yeah, that's a cool again. That's a cool side thing that I didn't do, but there were so many other things that I did do and I did discover in the game that I felt fully satisfied when I completed it. But there's just so many amazing things. What were we originally talking about with the combat? I think we were talking about puzzle solving and discovery and the characters.
Yeah, just the special moves each character uses, like the
Right,
archetype
right,
each
right, right.
character falls into.
Yes,
Overall, the game is offers a wide variety of things to do, I would say.
yeah. And another thing that I forgot to mention, and I'm not I'm generally not too hot on item usage in games. I prefer to try to rely on like magic and magical abilities for like healing and buffing and debuffing enemies and such. So there are a number of items in the game for healing and very traditional turn-based combat types of things. And in addition to that, for items and everything, there's cooking stations
Yep.
throughout the game as well for cooking. There's a fishing aspect of the game that I completely stumbled on in very late game. Again, it's like a something that I would have never known about had I not like accidentally stumbled upon it. So you can fish for things and you can find different like mushrooms and other sort of flora and fauna throughout the world to contribute to cooking and to cook healing items. And the metal system, what I thought was cool is early on in the game, you in the early area, you come across vendors that sell them, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I can just buy them. But part of the side quests in the world, you can get so many metals as well as rewards, and it really is almost kind of like it really is receiving gifts in the game because you're not really sure what you're going to get, and it can totally maybe like change a loadout. Your metal loadout. If you get a certain metal, you're like, oh, I can pair it with this other metal that I already have. And you had mentioned, do you know, we recall what were some of your favorite metals that you equipped or kept equipped for most of the game?
Of course. I mean, TP plus is essential. I would say.
Yeah.
You get more TP.
Hmm.
Um, the bubble shield light is a metal that you can get. It gives Leaf that move to use the bubble shield. Hard charge lets you charge up a powerful attack. You skip a turn, but then it's a special move you get. It's called hard charge. You do it, you skip a turn, but then the next turn you take out a lot more. Um, Mighty Pebble, you can throw pebbles for free damage at the end of each turn. Break, it lowers an enemy's defense.
Yeah, break was one I used a lot.
Power exchange I use a lot too, increases the attack power. I use that a lot for Vi. Strong start as well. If you combine strong start and power exchange put it on Vi, like it's awesome. Like she's amazing. Like
Yeah.
totally increases her attack.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. Oh, so one of the things that because I knew this was Paper Mario inspired. One of the big things I do is when I level up, I don't increase my HP. Like I only increase metal points and TP. That's just how I play it.
Okay.
Um, so a lot of the metals I use, I don't use like the HP plus. Like I don't really do any of that stuff. I do more. I'm trying to I'm almost introducing like a new level of difficulty for myself, but I really like it.
Hmm.
Oh, and also first striking is one of the badges I use a lot, and back support. Do you remember the back?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
use those a lot. What else was you made me think of one or two others. Oh, another one that I thought was fun was I forget the name of it. I think it's called like fleet or something fleet, but there's a metal to where it makes it easier to run away from battles,
Yep.
and there's also a metal where if you touch an under leveled enemy in the overworld, it automatically dies and disappears. You don't even launch into battle.
Oh
So
yeah, I use that all the
um,
time for like later
yeah,
game, especially when you're
yeah,
going on certain side quests that bring you to a previous area, like a previous
yeah,
chapter, and it's like I don't
yeah.
want to fight these level 3 enemies when I'm in chapter 5.
No, yeah, and that
Yeah.
is one thing about the combat is that combat is really the only way that you get experience points, and specifically, it's first time combat really. So if you come across enemies in the overworld and you fight them and you get like whatever EXP and you move on throughout the game and advance and you go back to that area, pretty consistently, what I found with I don't think any exceptions is you're going to get like next to no EXP. So it really forces you really can't traditionally grind as people know them in JRPGs that I know of. Maybe you can speak more to that or provide more specificity or insight. Am I off base on that?
No,
What do
I mean
you what do you think?
again. That's right out of Paper Mario.
Paper Mario, that's
Yep,
good.
right
Yeah,
out of Paper Mario.
yeah,
Big thing for these games is like if you're gonna grind, like it's like you do it in the chapter you're in, and you get to a certain
yeah,
level, and then it's like okay, you're at that level that they expect you to be at.
yeah. Really, the quote unquote grinding in this game is doing the side quests. You're going to get more abilities or medals or cool items or whatever else. So, really, the grinding in the game is not just like increasing your number go up stats. It is actually enhancing your characters with different abilities and items
It's
and
because
such.
when you level up, it's not like you're getting more attack.
No, yeah, you're not getting like traditional number go up. Like you
Yeah.
could like there is the option to pick like health going up, but yeah, you're not.
That's it though. But
Yeah,
like you're not increasing
yeah,
your
that's it.
damage output. It's more of how are you gonna be able to survive the battles? Are you gonna have to equip certain more metals? Do you need more HP? Do you need more TP?
Yeah, it is. It is leveling up in this game is basically opening you up to more customization for your characters and your party, which I really appreciated. Again, I had no idea what to expect because I hadn't played Paper Mario, but you could theoretically from an actual sort of role playing perspective, you could definitely have totally different approaches to combat. Um, Throughout different playthroughs of the game. But as far as like medal, so each medal has a point value attached to it that contributes to your total medal points for the party. There's some medals that cost like 0 points. And do you recall what the most expensive medal that you recall? I think I came across a 10 pointer or a 12 pointer.
There's definitely I don't recall how much each one costs, but there is definitely a 12 pointer on there. I don't remember exactly what it is. But like the ones that are going to be more beneficial to you obviously are going to cost more.
Yeah, yeah. I think most medals that you'll come across and you'll get range between 3 and 8 points, I want to
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
Thereabouts, and every time you level up, you have a choice to increase your health by 1, and then you can either increase your magic or your metals by increments of 3,
Yep,
if
increments
I
of 3.
recall.
Yep.
Yeah, increments of 3. So, yeah, it's very good. Your health, especially for you, as you mentioned, your playthroughs, the health is more at a premium because it really wants to funnel you into using more of your magic and your metals and
Mhm.
your actual character's abilities. So I found that very valuable and very rewarding with how the game is designed. So, was there anything else in your notes as far as the combat that you wanted to shout out?
No, that's about it for combat. I really
Okay.
want to get into the overall story and the lore of the world.
I'm gonna really have you carry that. I'm gonna speak pretty briefly on that. What I'll say is, yeah, this was probably my biggest surprise of the game. The story set up in the lore. So, as we mentioned earlier, the three main party members, Vi the Bumblebee, Kabu the Beetle, and Leif the Moth. Those, as Sean mentioned, those are your only three party members, which I appreciated because it really is their journey that you're going on this adventure with. And learning about some of the Paper Mario games from Backlog Brain Rot, what you guys have discussed, I was afraid there was going to be other party members. I was like, oh no, I like all three of these. I want to be attached to them, and it thankfully it is just those three. And when I first started the game, was playing like the first chapter or two, I thought it was going to be like primarily Vi's adventure. But as you go on throughout the game, you're like, oh no, each character has their time to shine. It really is a party, a group, a collective. So yeah, so with those three characters, kind of talk about what the story setup is and what kind of sparks this adventure that you go on.
All right, so it takes place in the world of Bugaria, which is just like a giant world of bugs. And there's a lot of lore to it. They refer to these things called giants, and the giants were at certain times seen as like these great enemies. There are like certain factions between the bugs divided up. Like we have the wasp. The wasp kingdom is like these enemies. Like nobody likes the wasps. You have just different sects of bugs. It's really cool. Like you have Vi, like you said, is a bumblebee. Kabu is a beetle, and you kind of travel all around Bulgaria and go to different areas. And depending on the area you're in, you will encounter different types of bugs. So, for example, I had mentioned one of them, you go to the honey factory, which is in the bee kingdom. And when you're in the bee kingdom, obviously you are going to be encountering a lot of bees. And that whole gist of that chapter is going to be revolved around going into a factory. And the factory is basically designed to extract honey. But when you're in there, you're looking for a specific artifact because you are looking for artifacts that are going to help in search of the Everlasting Sapling, which is hence where the title of the game comes from. It's supposed to grant immortality, and obviously, so the story setup. The big bad wants the Everlasting Sapling for himself. He wants to be immortal, and you are on an adventure to try to stop that. You are sent out by the Queen of Bulgaria to stop this, and it's funny because you're just like a trio of like ragtag little insects that no one really believes in. Each of the characters are just distinctly different. I would break it down like at the beginning of the game. Vi is very selfish, really only thinks about herself. Kabu is trying to discover about like where does he belong in the world, and Leaf is trying to uncover a mysterious backstory. So all three of them are very distinct from each other, but they come together and they end up helping each other out. And eventually, you learn much more about them. Vi, obviously, she was selfish. She becomes less selfish. You learn about her backstory, about why she ends up the kind of like the main hub world is kind of, it's called Snake Mouth Den. That's like the main area that you start in, and you kind of go back there after each chapter. And Vi is there for very selfish reasons, but you kind of understand why Vi goes there later on in the game. Again, Kabu is there, and then you discover Leaf in the prologue, which is like the beginning of the game, in basically frozen in this cavern, and he doesn't remember anything. Like, what's going on here? I mean, overall, you go to all these different kingdoms and you encounter different bugs. For example, you go to the Golden Hills in chapter one, and in the Golden Hills is very much like there's like Venus flytraps, and it's very nature filled. There's a lot of puzzles. You go to this place called the Termite Kingdom, and the termites are like they kind of are off on their own. Like they don't like to interact with other isolationists. They don't want to get involved in anything that's going on. They are off on their own area. They like to talk to themselves. They don't venture out. And there you uncover a lot about what the everlasting sapling is, because people there is a lot of lore behind it. The termites know a lot about it, so you kind of understand a lot more. Again, there's different. All the environments are very different from each other. There's puzzles. There's a actual. You can learn a lot more about the lore. I'm not gonna go into so much about the lore. If you read, you can collect these books throughout the game. And if you can go in and actually read the books, and you learn a lot more about like what happens. There's a lot of like you never get really confirmation about like what where the game overall takes place.
I kind of liked that it doesn't explicitly tell you, and I'll probably try to go look into the lore more here soon. But I didn't want like the magic trick to be revealed to me when the magic trick wasn't when I wasn't done with the game, when the magic trick
Yeah.
wasn't completed yet. So, but seeing more of those revelations as you go on throughout the game, while the stakes are also being raised and like everything is ramping up, like the combat is becoming more difficult, like the puzzles are becoming a little bit more obtuse and challenging, character moments are becoming like more intense and intimate. Yeah, it does a really good job. And I think with the story setup and the lore throughout, you highlighted this through all the different kingdoms that you go to in the different areas, is that these sort of socio political diplomatic relations between these different bug kingdoms, like the ants and the bees and the wasps and the termites. And it was very, I appreciated it as someone who's more adult, and you kind of understand that diplomatic issues really don't ever go away. Like there's times of peace and there's times of war, but even during the times of peace, like you realize that nations still have disputes and disagreements, or incidents happen and things break out, and it's like an ongoing sort of tide. It comes in and out, and it's never really calm and constant 100% of the time. And you're going through and you're navigating these things, and you're getting like micro and macro views of what's going on with each kingdom, and what is their perspective, or what are their priorities, and what are their beefs with the other kingdoms, what are their goals and what are their aims. And that's probably what struck me the most about the game, and I think I pointed that out to you early on. As you're going on through the game, you're actually helping ease
Yep.
diplomatic tensions. You're actually helping nations come together. And you mentioned the books too. There, you'll find books, I think, like through side quests, or you'll find them like laying around the map to pick up. And in the hub area is the library where you return books. And there's also another side NPC in the library that collects
Hmm.
bad books. So you can also collect bad books and give to him, and he's like, "Oh, this book is absolutely atrocious. It's notoriously bad." And he'll say, like, "Thank you so much. I'm so happy I got this book." And it's little sort of moments of levity like that and goofiness that it's not like all serious socio-political diplomatic commentary and examinations. It balances all of those things really well. There's goofy side quests, there's serious side quests, there's very personal ones. you mentioned like borderline mandatory side quests. There are the companion side quests. I forget what.
Yeah, it's Vi's request, Kabu's request, and Leaf's request.
I think Kabu's request unlocks after you beat the main boss or like the very very end of the game, because I remember going through and I'm like, I don't remember seeing.
You can do it in chapter 4 after chapter 4.
Okay, you can. Okay, maybe
Yep.
I probably just didn't explore enough to notice to go and seek it out. But yeah, and when you another thing that you reminded me of, I believe it's mandatory. It may be a side, but there's a whole dungeon where it's basically where you discover Leif's origin. You know
Yep.
what's the background there. That dungeon was really cool as well. Maybe this could have gone in combat as well, but the dungeons in this game I think are really really fun. That's something I didn't anticipate. And I remember telling you when I got to that first sort of, even just like the first tutorial dungeon, I'm like, oh, that was actually really cool. I didn't expect that. That was really fun. And you're like, oh yeah, just wait. There's so many more of them that are really, really rewarding and fun to do. And sure enough, there's a lot of them, and there's ones that you can just entirely miss. They're just mainlining or not being curious and discovering. So that was really what stuck out to me, was the sort of the story and really the lore, the fully thought out diplomatic ties between the different various bug nations. Was there anything else that you wanted to, based on what I said, or something maybe that you recalled while we were discussing this, that you wanted to point out or mention or discuss?
I would just say for anyone going, like, obviously we're not revealing, the backstory of the games, but
No, 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 no.
they all three characters, the backstory is, I would say, crucial to character development, and you just learn so much more, and it gives you so much more insight. Also, another thing I had mentioned it when I talked about when I was playing Trails, but talking to a lot of the NPCs in this game reveals a lot about the world as well.
Hmm.
Um, Particularly if you go to the Bee Kingdom, which is where Vi's from, and you talk before you complete before you complete chapter 3 and you're in the honey factory in the bee kingdom and you talk to them, you can see the disdain they have for Vi, like all the different characters in
Yeah.
there, and it's really intriguing. And then after you do Vi's quest, the dialogue often changes how they treat Vi. um I would say you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't do those quests.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, they're marked as the character names request in the side quests. So I would say those are borderline mandatory to do. You're not going to get the full sense of satisfaction of being on this adventure with these three characters. And there's no excuse. It's not like you can say, "Oh, this was an optional side character that I just didn't include in my party." No, they're going to be in your party the whole time. You'll get occasional accompanying
Yeah, did
characters
you
for
I
side
was gonna
quests, but they
ask you.
don't they don't really. One or two of them do combat, but most of them just accompany you to go from point A to point B on a side quest. There's some, but none of them are controllable that I recall. There's some that do auto battle. You don't control them, but they
Mhm.
do participate as an actual turn in the battles. But for the
Yeah.
most part, there's some that just accompany you from like point A to point B on a side quest. So what were you gonna say?
Did you do the side quest where you get Chompy?
I don't think so. Which one was that?
It's something in the Bee Kingdom. You kind of help. How the professor in the Bee Kingdom, how he's like
Yes.
creating all these different contraptions.
Yeah.
He creates some type of, like, it's essentially like almost like a pet. It can't talk, and once you unlock it, it follows you around the entire game, and you can use it in battle.
Oh, I definitely did not get that. I'll have to look that up though.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty funny.
Chompy, and you can upgrade Chompy to like different colors and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's all like it doesn't break the game. It does not like a huge upgrade, but for as someone who did all the quests, I just thought it was interesting. And I also just want to give one shout out to a recurring duo that you constantly meet throughout the game, and that is Mothiva and Zasp.
Oh yeah, those are, yeah, just complete divas. It's very very
Yeah.
funny. One of them. That
Zasp is like standing Mothiva, and Mothiva is like a celebrity throughout the Bulgaria.
Yeah, when you see Mothiva, you're like, oh, this is a complete diva. Down to like Mothiva's attack is just slapping you and like pounding you after she knocks you down and like
Yep.
slaps you down. So yeah, that was a very funny ongoing bit. And Mothiva's theme is an absolute banger. I think I sent it to you.
Yep. Yep.
I'll definitely include it in the show in some form or fashion.
It's also funny because you fight them numerous times throughout the game, but they're also characters like you had said that join your party at sometimes and attack on their own.
Yeah, they do, and they definitely help. There's an ant character that helps you to I forget the name of it, but they're like a Queen's Guard character.
Yep. Hmm.
Um,
I
and
can't
they're
remember
cool.
their name, but
Yeah,
yeah.
they're cool. They have a big how should I call it? Like a big sword. That's very cool. They do a lot of damage too. So I'm like, oh, I'm very happy you're joining my party and helping out with combat right now. So yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of memorable characters, and well, like you pointed out with the chomper thing, I would have. That's the game is even deeper. The game is so much deeper than you think going into it because you see this kind of like cutesy, you know, paper mache sort of art style, and you're like, oh, this is a cute little turn-based game. But yeah, you can spend. I mean, I spent, like I said, I spent close to 35 hours, and I think I did roughly half of the side content, um, which we can lead right into that. Was there anything else with the story and the lore, anything that you wanted to
No,
highlight?
I really want to get into the side contact because
Yeah.
I have a deep question to ask you, or not a deep question, but
Okay.
I have a pretty big question to ask you.
I'll do a little bit of setup here. So the side content, you get side quests. I believe the only way to get them is through signboards throughout the various cities that you visit.
Yep.
One thing you'll want to be considerate of is that additional quests do appear. So when you like finish a chapter and you leave a city, you'll want to occasionally go back because new side quests will appear down to like the very first Snake Mouth Den area that you visit. I think like 3 or 4 batches of new side quests appeared. So there is a lot of side content in the game. I don't know the exact number of side quests that I did. I want to say at least a couple dozen. I want to say like maybe close to 30 roughly off the top of my
I
head.
think there's 30. I'm pretty sure there's 36.
36 side quests? Oh, I thought
I
maybe there's
think so.
not as many as I thought then. Okay. Maybe I did like roughly I did roughly
Um,
20 24 then. Okay. I did maybe I did more of them than I thought. But something else that I want to that probably that stuck out to me the most when playing this game is the map. And when I say that there is a sort of baseline mainline approach to this game, and then there are deeper levels to this game. And I don't mean geographic. I don't mean like there's an entire other world in this game, like when you're playing Tears of the Kingdom or Elden Ring. It's like, oh, you're going to take a giant elevator to this one giant, vast, expansive underground area. These secret areas in this game are very subtly hidden, oftentimes behind your character's abilities. So, like with Kabu, you can use his horn to cut down blades of grass to access little nooks and crannies in the world. With Vi, you can like throw a boomerang to hit a lever or knock something down, and with Leaf, you can use their ice to freeze objects and jump on them, or you can freeze water to create platforms to jump across chasms and such. So keep your eyes and ears peeled. Sometimes side quests will actually lead you to secret side areas. Other times they may not. You just may have to like trust your instincts and lean on your curiosity a little bit to find them. And also the map. When I spoke about the diplomacy, the map, an aspect of the map, there is a underground there's an underground cave hub area where you can eventually unlock fast travel points to different areas of the map that you're going to be visiting. And in that, it is a gameplay system, but it is also a thematic. You're basically increasing diplomatic ties that reward you with these fast travel points from kingdom to kingdom. So you eventually build up enough goodwill with these leadership of these various kingdoms to where, hey, we will allow you to travel freely through these fast travel points. And that was something that I found just so rewarding. Again, on a when aspects of games have multiple levels to them. In this case, it's thematic and it's also like a gameplay system. I found that extra rewarding. But I've yapped long enough. I'll let you go off about like the side content and the map and everything else.
I want to correct myself. There are 51 side quests. I have no idea where I got 36 from.
51. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I just counted them up.
Okay.
As far as this game has a card game in it. It has a card game. Did you play the card game? Did you play Spy Cards?
I did not. I totally missed that. See, this game continues to be deeper and deeper. Thank
Oh
you
my god.
for.
It's a turn-based card game and there is a big tournament. You know how you can go to Metal Island and it's like a you take a boat out to Metal Island and it's like a
Oh, yes,
yep.
yes, yes. Yeah.
There is a Spy Cards tournament there. That is one of the side quests. It's one of the last side quests you can complete because in
Okay.
order to complete it, you need every single card. And in order to, you know how you can kind of spy enemies to like look at like their stats
Yes. Yeah.
in battle.
Yeah.
When you do that, you unlock their card for Spy Cards. And overall, you can go throughout the game, and in each area, each little kingdom, there are maybe like 4 or 5 NPCs in each kingdom, and you challenge them to a game of Spy Cards. And when you beat them all, is when you get invited to the tournament at Metal Island.
Ooh.
It is so much fun. I had mentioned that I had the limited edition physical version of this game. It came with spy cards, their own sample spy cards. You got one for Vi, one for Kabu, for Leaf, one for the Everlasting Sapling has its own card.
Wow.
The Wasp King has his own card. I can't remember which ones else they gave me, but it is really cool. And actually, on Etsy, people made like actual decks of every single card, which is really cool. I've been
That's cool.
very
That's
tempted to
cool.
buy them, but yeah, just like a turn-based card game where, like, depending on like the element of the card, it can beat one. It's very straightforward, but it's really fun. Like again, RPGs implementing their own card game, one of the staples.
You telling me this, I had no idea.
Yeah,
Again, I don't. I try not to look up stuff too much when I'm playing a game, and I don't want. You always emphasize. You're so great about emphasizing this with whatever game you're playing. Don't look up hints. Don't look up a guide. So I had no idea about this.
yeah.
The game is deeper on 2 or 3 levels at least.
You discover this through. You had mentioned you go into like that underground tavern area. There's an NPC you can talk to in there, and when you talk to him, this is how you discover spy cards.
Okay.
We had also talked about earlier. There's like bounties where there's specific enemies for side quests. They'll tell you need to defeat this enemy.
Yeah.
You can defeat that. There's a side
Yeah.
quest you get all those lore books, and some of them require you to do other quests to get the lore book. I love how there's one where you just make every single dish in the cooking list. That is really fun. The cooking in this game is fun. I love the different creations you can make. It all like makes sense. You get clear water and a hustleberry and you create a hot drink like plain tea, burley tea. There's different types of tea. You can make an abomination, which is so funny. And it comes out as looks like an abomination, basically.
It's funny because the abomination graphic that I remember, it's almost like the when you make a terrible meal in like Breath
Yep.
of the Wild or like
Hmm.
Tears of the Kingdom, very similar to that. But yeah, the cooking, the chef animation is very cool. I forget what kind of bug the is the
It is
chef
an
a
ant. It's an
is
ant.
it a praying mantis?
Um
Oh, is it
yeah,
an
it's an
ant?
ant. It's a
Okay.
giant ant because his name's Cut the Chef. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Um Yeah, like you said, we have there's so many different side quests. Some of them are, like I said, are pretty straightforward, like, oh, go get me this item. But then there's other ones where you discover new terrain that you had never discovered before. There's some, like I said, the last side quest, one of the last side quests is like a super secret boss that's more difficult than the Wasp Kingdom, the Wasp King.
Oof.
And
Oof.
it's not really giving it away. It's just a rematch with Mothiva and Zasp, and it's like much harder. Like Mothiva actually takes it seriously, and Zasp takes it seriously, and it's pretty fun. Yeah,
That's
it's really
fun.
fun. As far as the map design, I really like looking at like I have part of the secret special edition too. They gave you a map of Bulgaria, the world basically, and it is really fun to look at and just look at where each location is in relation to each other, how trying to piece together like the lore of the game and knowing what the map looks like and knowing what I've read in the lore books. It's interesting to see how the map has evolved over the years of the game because the first book you can actually read it takes they talk about like stuff that took place like hundreds of years ago, which is well hundreds of years in bug years, so I don't know how much that is in human years, which is funny. um
Probably not very long.
Probably not,
Bugs are
yeah.
their lifespans are very short.
um but yeah, like you had mentioned it, the side quests really make you explore the different areas, and a lot of it is going back to like between chapters is almost like a chapter itself because like go revisit some of the areas you've already been to. You're gonna discover new things. You got a new ability. You're gonna be able
Yep.
to find new things, a secret cavern you couldn't get to.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
just like stuff like that. It's so interesting, and I love talking to the various NPCs, especially when you play spy cards, because like certain people won't battle you in spy cards until you get a certain rank in the game. And for like there's you have a spy
Yeah.
cards rank, so you go back and then you battle them, and you're like, oh my gosh. And then when you go to that Metal Island for that tournament, some of the characters you've met throughout the game are there in the tournament, and it's really fun.
That's funny. Yeah, it does. It does sound because I got really into Queen's Blood
Yep.
in Rebirth. So like what you're saying is very there's like a lot of parallels with that. So there's a couple of things that I was gonna talk about that you mentioned. Oh yeah, with the map, the standard map that you get is basically just it's a very broad overworld
Hmm.
map, and there's really no. It doesn't highlight any pathways. All it really does is just show a very simple, vaguely drawn map with different bullets representing the different kingdoms, and you really sort of have to memorize where to go, which you'll
It's
do.
not
It's
super. It's not
nothing
like
too
huge.
elaborate.
Yeah.
But with your side quests too, there's really no there again, that's the map is very broad and vague. There's no map markers. There's nothing really pointing anything out when you're in the game traversing the various areas of the map. And even when you're on side quests, even with those, when you have companions joining you, there's no sign markers, there's no guideposts, there's no yellow paint directing you. There's nothing highlighted, so you really have to rely on your memory and where to go. And again, it's nothing too elaborate. You'll become pretty familiar with where you've been and where you haven't been. So
I do have a question regarding a side quest for
go
you.
ahead.
Did you do the side quest where you uncover the secret crime ring? There's a secret crime ring going around in the undergrounds of Bulgaria. It's like a
Um,
detective like quest. You get like clues, and you have to you solve one, and then you have to solve another clue. It's like a you get it. You solve a clue to find a clue to solve a like and then you eventually uncover this secret crime ring going on. It ends up uncovering a secret boss.
um, I don't think I discovered that one. I discovered the sort of underground club thing where you turn in like the big bounty fights.
Yeah,
There
no,
was
this is
one.
different.
No, I don't
Yeah,
think I
this
did
is
that one.
different.
There was a one. There was a kind of an annoying side quest where I had to like. I think I had to like retrieve. You know what the side quest was? It was the one where you have to get the red paint. I think where you have to like just bounce around.
Oh, okay.
That one was very
Yeah,
annoying. Yeah, I did that. But
yeah,
no, that one you mentioned,
yeah.
I don't
It's
think I discovered.
called meddling with merchants. It's kind of like more of an end game one.
Okay,
You go back to the Golden Kingdom and you can find it there, and it's really cool. It's if you like detective stuff, it's like right up your alley.
okay. No, I didn't do that one. Yeah, see, that's like the fourth or fifth aspect of the game. I didn't even realize. Yeah, there's Yeah, like you mentioned, 51 side quests. I did not expect that. The game is just even better than I thought. It really is something unique and special. What else was I gonna say? I don't think there's really anything else like the story, the side content, and the map. Like I said, that was probably the biggest pleasant surprise for me, and even more of a pleasant surprise. There was three or four whole substantial game mechanics and systems that I didn't even know about thanks to you. Oh, and it does have the JRPG thing where you eventually unlock a sort of overworld travel ship. In this case, it's
Hmm.
the water that you can travel around in, and even that it getting that allows you to access different points of areas of the map. So like previously you traditionally enter by land. Well, this allows you to enter by a port or a pier that's on a different side of this kingdom that you weren't able to access before, and it opens up a whole new town where you go to access Metal Island through this ship as well. So keep your eyes open when going throughout the map. Even it's making a mental note of like, hey, that's an area that I will eventually be able to access when I get like a certain ability. So just keep that in mind, and the game is going to be even more rewarding on so many different additional levels than just simply mainlining. But no, was there anything else side content and map wise?
No, that's it.
Okay,
I'm good.
cool, cool. So the next sort of major section of this episode, as with many, is the caveat section. And again, we're not really being negative, and I believe we really touched on all of these, maybe except for one. The first caveat that I have is we touched on this before, but don't expect any additional playable party members. So if you're at all concerned about, oh, there's going to be 5 or 7 total party members, don't really worry about that. It's just the core three, which helped me out a lot because I think if there were like optional party members, I would have stressed out more about, oh, which character do I like the best, or which one is going to be the best for this battle. Like these are going to be your characters. You're not going to have to worry about an additional character that throws in a wrinkle of how to assign medals or where to how to upgrade points when you increase levels. So It's just the core three of, again, Vi the Bumblebee, Kabu the Beetle, and Leif the Moth. So, and we touched on this again, but it really helps to reinforce the sense of adventure, and it helps you to grow and bond with the characters throughout the game. So,
Mm, definitely.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very memorable. I think that was a very good that sort of restraint was a very good choice by Moonsprout Games. So I applaud them
Yeah.
for the restraint on that. The other caveat that I have that I want to emphasize, I know we also mentioned this earlier, is earning EXP for leveling up. It's only done through combat. So if you do a side quest and you're going throughout the game and you complete the side quest, I don't think there's any side quest at all that you just get EXP for completing the side quest.
No.
You'll get an item.
There's none.
It is you only get EXP through combat. So keep that in mind. And it is primarily through first time encounters through combat. So that is the way you earn EXP. And then the final caveat that I have, Sean, is the final boss of the mainline campaign in this game is pretty tough. There is a wrinkle to the final boss fight. It is in two phases, is what I'll say, but it's more complicated than that. But it is very rewarding. The final boss, I had to. There was like sometimes where I accepted temporary defeat, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do some more side quests. I'm gonna get some more items, try to get some more medals, level up like I think I leveled up like 2 or 3 levels, nothing too crazy. I don't remember what level I was when I completed the game. I forgot to jot that down, but yeah, the final boss. As if you're not as experienced with like turn-based or like Paper Mario games, you may struggle a little bit. So you'll want to make sure that you're well equipped for this boss. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, you'll want to be very familiar with your characters and how you utilize them in combat. Is what I'll say. What do
Yeah,
you?
I would say for the final boss, you want to make sure that you have a distinct set of medals that you want to use
Yeah,
and you know how to use. That's going to greatly benefit you. In terms of difficulty, I would say, like you said, if you're familiar with Paper Mario, the boss isn't any more difficult than the Shadow Queen, who's the final boss of the Thousand Year Door. So as long as you go in with medals that you know how to use, you know how to battle, you know, some type of way, sort of a plan that you usually go into battles with, I think
yeah.
you'll be fine. But it's about having the right medals. If you go in there thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna brute force my way through this, you're not gonna do that.
No, the I think honestly, pound for pound, it wasn't. I don't think it was the most difficult boss because I think I fought like one or two of those side challenge bosses, but it's the length of the fight. And I want to say, refresh my memory. Maybe you remember, maybe you don't. I think the second phase, like the actual proper second phase of the fight, I think it auto replenishes your stats. I could be wrong. I'm not
It
sure.
does, yeah.
It does.
Well, if it only unless you're on hard mode. So I played on hard
Oh,
mode,
okay, then it
but
doesn't. Okay, that makes sense.
yeah, on hard mode it doesn't.
Okay.
But yeah,
But yeah, but on normal mode, it will replenish your stats through the actual proper second phase. Yeah, and the first phase is very manageable. The second phase is when he is not going to be around. He's not going to tolerate any of your BS. He is there to fight. And so yeah, those are like the really only caveats that I have. Was there anything else that you maybe wanted to mention as far as tempering people's expectations, or maybe little quirks or aspects of the game that maybe stood out to you that you want to
no,
prepare people for?
no, this game's a perfect game. It's a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
No, um, it's one of my favorite games of all time. But obviously there are some
Yeah.
caveats. I mean,
Yeah, there's
some of the side quests,
go ahead.
like I said, some of the side quests are not, you know, as rewarding as others, but you get that in every RPG.
Yeah,
Um, I would say definitely, like I said, a caveat for me would be like you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't do the
companion.
party
Yeah,
member companion side quests.
yeah,
I wish those were part of like I wish they were shoehorned into the mainline story, but understandable.
yeah.
But I don't really have any other
You
caveats.
still get character moments throughout the mainline story, which I thought were very
Yes,
rewarding.
yes,
There's one with, well, really all of them, but the first one that I thought of just now, and I'm thinking about character. There's one with Kabu that I thought was very rewarding, where he just like absolutely erupts and explodes, and I was like, oh man, this
yep.
is intense. Uh,
That's in chapter 4.
Yeah, yeah, it's right around like sort of midway-ish through the game. Like, oh man,
Yep.
yeah, he is not messing around. It was very intense. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even include this as a caveat, but it's like this is a smaller budget game. There's no VO, like there's no
Oh my
There's
gosh.
not there's not even
I
like there's not even like little chirp. It's all just text. So like if you're just, I mean, again, I didn't even think to list that as a caveat because I'm like I didn't expect there to be any VO, but it doesn't make the dialogue any less effective or charming or anything. So, oh
If it was up to me, RPGs like this would not have like I think it's I don't like when they
no,
shoehorn
yeah,
in
I feel like
voice.
it's with the sort of paper aesthetic and art style. It's almost like you're reading. It's almost like you're playing a comic strip or like a comic book almost of sorts. So it would almost feel overly done to have VO. To be honest. Oh, one other thing I meant to mention this earlier, and I don't know. I always forget to mention this in almost every single game for this podcast that I want to point out. The music in this game is shockingly good.
Yep.
Like it is
It's
really
very
good.
good.
There's That's another reason to really explore is you'll get different themes. I'm going to try to play. I'm going to try to include at least like three or four of them throughout this episode. I think one or two of which you recommended, and like one or two that I've pointed out. Yeah, so many good tracks. The termite. That's really one reason why the termite kingdom stood out is like there's like just two tracks alone in that area that really stood out to me as
Funniest
with
thing, I
bangers.
was just thinking that. I was
Yeah,
thinking about the Termite Kingdom's
yeah,
music is just awesome. And I think it fits perfectly with how they are isolationists.
yeah, yeah. It really does. I really can't think there's anything. Is there anything else? Is there anything else that you have in your extensive teacher copy of the agenda with all the notes in the cheat sheet? Anything
No,
else?
that's about it. I just want to. I would say I would highly suggest to people to play this game, even if you're not a fan of Paper Mario. Give this game a shot. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it really is very fun. It's very well paced. You always feel like you're going beat to beat. You're going along, even if you're not doing the main quest. If you're doing side quests, again, there's 7 chapters total. It'll run you a minimum of I want to say first time playthrough. If you're like really mainlining, I would say like 20
Maybe
28
20
hours.
hours. I'd say 20 to 25. I'd say maybe.
Yeah, I would say if you're like really flying through the game and you don't do any side quests somehow and you can get through the game, yeah, then maybe like I would say the average playthrough is going to be in the high 20s, 28, 29 hours roughly doing like just no, yeah, it's this game is probably one of my biggest pleasant surprises of doing this so far. And I know many of you out there who listen, you haven't played this game because I see your backlogs. I see the games you log and you claim to play and you play all these different games and yeah, for sure check this one out. It's been out, for 5 years. It's going to be on sale pretty frequently. There was just a physical copy which I think I'm going to pick up. We'll see. Nothing else about the game that you want to mention? Any else final words about the game? We're good.
No, that's
Yep.
it. That's it.
So
All I got.
I like to tease a little bit on the show. I like to hint at things coming. Sean, you and I have again. I don't like to give anything away. I like everything to be a surprise on the show. We have at least one very special thing planned in the future.
Indeed, we do.
We have probably another thing planned also in the future, and then maybe even one or two other things which I'll talk to you about because I always have ideas. I have many ideas cooked up. But yeah, we will be reconvening again soon, at least once. And I have two other planned mainline episodes that I need to follow up with my guests on. I will say one of them currently works in the game development industry, so I'm very excited.
Doo-doo.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Another one is I'm very excited about. I didn't expect this person to come on the show, and it is a game that I have no earthly idea about, and I blind bought this game. So we will see. We will
Interesting.
see how that goes. I have no idea what to expect. Yeah, I'm very excited. So stay tuned. I don't think there's anything else I can talk about. No, I don't. I don't think so. What are you? What's the rest of your day? Obviously, tomorrow is a special, the weekly dinner. What's the rest of your weekend looking like?
Nothing too crazy. Claire's working a double today, so
Okay.
she usually works 3 to 11, but she's working 7 to 3, then 3 to 11.
Oh,
So she's been gone basically all day.
oh,
So I've just been hanging. I went for a run this morning,
okay.
and now I'm just hanging out. I don't have any grading to catch up on. Everything's going great.
Okay.
Basketball season's officially over for me because we didn't make the state tournament.
Oh,
I got a couple weeks till track.
couple weeks till track. Oh yeah, that's right. I always remember track kind of starting earlier in the year.
Yeah,
Oh,
March.
the baked goods the baked goods ideas that I gave you. Are you going to be doing those this weekend, or what's the?
You'll see.
Okay,
You'll
we'll
see.
see. Okay, okay. Yeah, I think that's it. I left people with many nuggets to think upon. I know of at least one person who's going to be very happy with this episode. I don't think they have any idea it's coming, so I'm very excited. I
Ooh.
like my surprises, as you know, as many people know. So, but Sean, thank you again as always. And again, I apologize. I can't believe it's been this long since you've been on. We are going to rectify that and then some in many ways that people will see soon. So, no, thank you again, and we will see you very soon next time.